The arboreal gardens of Zephora Prime were the pride of the empire. Towering crystal trees, bioluminescent flora, and rivers of shimmering liquid ran through a sprawling network of terraces and walkways. And yet, in all this splendor, one figure went almost unnoticed. A human named Elias. Elias had arrived on Zephora Prime as part of the cultural exchange programmer, joint effort between Zephora Silicon, Earth and the Empire, to foster goodwill. His task was simple: maintain the gardens. And in truth, it suited him perfectly. He had always found solace in tending plants, in the simple rhythm of pruning, watering, and nurturing life, while the alien aristocrats, diplomats, and visitors floated through the gardens in levitation platforms or hovered in hoverchairs. Elias worked quietly with his hands in the soil, unnoticed, unbored. It was on a particularly quiet afternoon that he first saw the child. Elias was trimming the luminous petals of a cerulean hydrangea when he heard the softest sound, like a whispered sigh. Turning his head, he spotted a small alien child crouched behind a thick cluster of thorn-laced vines. The child was no taller than Ilias's waist, with skin the color of dark jade and eyes that glimmered with a silvery light. Its hands were delicate, clawed slightly at the tips, and it clutched what appeared to be a small, worn pack. "Hello there," Elias said gently, careful not to startle it. The child flinched, but didn't run. Its eyes met his, silently measuring him. Elias noticed the hunger written in the faint hollows of its face, the thinness of its limbs. On impulse, he opened his satchel and offered a piece of bread and some fruit he had prepared for lunch. The child hesitated, but then, with a small nod, accepted it. Its hands trembled slightly as it took the food. Elias crouched to its level, smiling softly. "You don't have to hide," he said. "I won't hurt you." For a moment, there was only silence. Then, almost imperceptibly, the child's lips curled into a ghost of a smile. It ate slowly, carefully, savoring every bite. Elias watched, heart tightening. He didn't know the child's name, didn't know why it was hiding. He only knew that it needed help, and that in this vast alien court, no one else seemed to notice. Over the next few days, Elias brought food quietly each afternoon. The child never spoke, but it began to wait for him in the same spot. A week passed in this quiet rhythm, until one evening, as Elias finished his work, he noticed something strange. Across the gardens, the distant hum of engines grew louder. Not the ordinary maintenance drones, not the floating transport pods, but something heavier, something that made the ground tremble faintly. From the horizon, a column of Imperial soldiers arrived. Their armor gleamed like blackened obsidian, and their visors reflected the garden lights like shards of glass. At their head was a figure that made Elias freeze. Tall, imposing, draped in ceremonial armor adorned with the crest of the Emperor himself, the Commandant of Zephora, the Emperor's personal enforcer. They moved with precision, cutting through the gardens like a river of shadows. Elias's heart thumped wildly. What had he done? The child appeared beside him, silent as ever, but its eyes now glowed with something fierce, a luminous intensity that made Elias shiver. It stepped forward, its small frame seeming almost impossibly defiant against the approaching soldiers. The Commandant halted a few paces away, his visor lowering to reveal a pale, angular face, the eyes cold and calculating. "Human," he said, voice like a blade. "You have been observed interacting with this subject. Do you understand what you have done?" Elias swallowed hard. "I didn't mean any harm," he said. "I just gave it some food. It looked hungry." The commandant's gaze narrowed. "This is a child of the Emperor's bloodline, an heir of the Silverian line. Your interference could have jeopardized the Empire itself." Elias's mind spun. Emperor's bloodline. Silverian heir. The child, the quiet, timid figure he had fed was not merely any alien child. It was royalty. Before he could speak, the child stepped forward again. Then, with a speed that was almost imperceptible, it raised its hand, and the air around it shimmered. A barrier of light flickered into existence, deflecting the commandant's soldiers who had begun to advance. Elias staggered back. He had never seen such power. The child's eyes glowed brighter, and for the first time it spoke. "Do not harm him," it said, voice clear, commanding, and impossibly young. The soldiers froze. Whispers ran through the ranks, muted, urgent, fearful. The commandant's jaw tightened. "This is impossible," he muttered. "No heir should be able to manifest the barrier of ancients at this age." Elias, heart pounding, realized something vital. The child had trusted him, and in return, it was defending him. But more than that, the child's actions had revealed a truth the Empire itself could not ignore. Even the youngest, Silverian, could wield incredible power when compassion, not fear, guided them. The commandant lifted his hand, signaling a halt. Then, slowly, he lowered his weapon. "It seems the child has chosen its protector," he said, his voice grudging. "Human, you will come with us to the palace. The Emperor wishes to see the one who has earned the heir's trust." Elias felt a wave of fear and awe. To meet the Emperor, to stand in the presence of someone whose power and influence spanned galaxies, it was beyond anything he could have imagined. Yet, alongside the fear, there was a quiet pride. He had acted without thought for reward or recognition. He had simply seen a child in need and done what he could. As they moved through the palace, the child remained by Elias's side, silent once more but radiating a quiet strength. Soldiers and courtiers parted for them, murmuring in awe and confusion. For the first time, Elias felt the weight of human resilience, simple, unassuming courage, shining brighter than any imperial armor in the throne room. The Emperor awaited. His presence was overwhelming, tall, regal, clad in robes of shimmering black and silver, his eyes deep pools of ageless wisdom. Yet, when he looked at Elias, there was no anger, no suspicion, only curiosity. "You are the one who has fed my grandchild," the Emperor said, voice resonant and commanding. "Do you understand what that act represents?" Elias bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, I only saw a child who was hungry. I did what any human would hope to do for another being." The Emperor's gaze softened. Then he looked at the child, whose silver eyes flickered between the human and the ruler. Finally, he spoke again. "It seems the teachings of compassion, even from the smallest of creatures, cannot be taught through power or command. You have proven humanity's greatest strength, empathy," the courtiers gasped. The commandant's face darkened with disbelief, yet he remained silent. The child approached Elias and touched his hand. The light in its eyes dimmed, a small, affectionate gesture. It spoke once more. "You are my friend." The Emperor inclined his head. "Henceforth you shall serve as guardian of the heir, not as a servant, not as a courtier, but as the protector of my grandchild, the human who embodies the virtues we have long sought to understand. Elias felt the weight of destiny settle on his shoulders. He was just a gardener, a simple human from Earth, yet here he stood, entrusted with the life of the future of an alien empire, and in that moment, he realized something profound. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness, feeding a hungry child, offering a word of comfort, could ripple across the galaxy in ways no one could foresee. The Empire, for all its grandeur, its fleets and armies, had overlooked what humans had always known instinctively. Compassion was power, and courage came in many forms. Weeks turned into months, and Elias's life changed beyond recognition. He taught the young heir to walk, to speak, and to laugh, all the while protecting it from threats that lurked in shadowed corners of the empire. And the child, once quiet and fearful, flourished under the steady guidance of the human who had dared to see it as more than a royal possession in the grand halls of the palace. In the midst of political intrigue and galactic politics, Elias remained a constant, a simple gardener, whose quiet courage and human empathy had altered the course of the empire itself. And the child, his friend and charge, grew strong and wise, carrying with them the lesson that kindness, even from a stranger, could be the most formidable weapon of all. The humans of Earth would never know the story of Elias in the arboreal gardens, nor would the empire likely share it openly. But in the hearts of those who witnessed it, a new respect was born for a species that could change the fate of an alien empire with nothing more than a loaf of bread, some fruit, and a willingness to care. And so, amid the crystal trees and shimmering rivers, the legend of the human gardener spread quietly, like the first shoots of spring, unseen, unassuming, yet impossible to ignore. Asterisk.